We're now into the basement. Obviously there's a lot of things that we have to consider, but we're focusing right now on looking at the electrical box, looking at the water heater, and checking the furnace. So the electrical panel's over here in the corner, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the front cover and look for problems or any deficiencies inside the panel. Step one, that's this guy, and that's probably for that plug there. You following me? Mm-hmm. So when I put everything back on, nothing should be on except that guy.
Okay, good.
Now that we have the panel off, the first thing that we look for is to make sure that at least it's all copper on the 15 and 20 amp branch circuits, which we have all copper here. So we're in good shape that way. The next thing we look for is the current capability of the unit. It's normally marked on here. I don't have it, but judging by the entrance cable lines, it's about 150 amps of service coming in. After we've done that thought process, then we look for multi-taps. That would be 2 wires under 1 screw, and that's a safety issue that would normally have to be corrected. In this case, we don't have anything like that. We're in pretty good shape that way. We do have a little bit of rust on a couple terminal screws, not enough to be alarmed about. A little rust on the bottom. Basically, it's due to the humidity in the basement. We would always recommend, once we start talking about the issues in the basement, we would say a dehumidifier in that case. We make sure all the grommets are in and the wires are coming through okay. We look for flying leads to make sure there's no flying leads, loose wires and things of that nature. We also look for that ground, as we mentioned, outside, and we have the ground wire coming up here and running along the sill plate, and we did trace it, and we'll show you where it's terminated to the main water line coming in, and that's very typical for a grounding plane. Okay. Basically, you have enough room you have additional room to expand also in here, which is a good sign too. Basically, we would say this box is in pretty good shape. A little bit of rust, keep an eye on it, get the humidity out of the basement, you'll be in good shape. And we would close it up and say that would be our inspection for this particular box here. We would also check this GFI receptacle to make sure it's operable, but it's not turned on, and we only have 1 branch circuit turned on for the sub pump. So I'll close back the box and we'll go from there.
Okay.
We have the panel back on. We closed it up. We just want to make sure that the 1 branch circuit is the only one that's on. The rest of the circuits are off. So we make sure of that. We close this, and usually there's little labels on here to tell you a couple of things too. This tells you usually when it was inspected. The final approval for the electric goes back to 1971. That kind of gives you an idea on the house's age too. And every once in a while you will have those on there. It's a Murray box, okay? They're old, but they're certainly still available, and the breakers are still available for them. Okay.
Okay.
Next thing we're looking at in this room here is the sub pump, and basically we have a submerged pump in the pit, and basically we test it to make sure she's operating, and as you can tell it is operating, and we're discharging the water, and we'll go through that. We'll let her run out pretty good because we've got a lot of water still coming in. And if basically, as you can see, there's a drain line being discharged into here from around the surfaces. Apparently there's some type of a French drain installed here. So one of the things you got to watch out, that the position of that pump, that pump float doesn't get hung up like it just did there. So a repositioning of the pump would be recommended, along with the fact that theoretically this should have its own outlet. Doesn't matter where it's positioned, but a stabilized or a secured outlet on the wall with a single box. If it's more than if it's a duplex box, it needs to be GFI, which I don't believe in. I shouldn't get into that, but that's the normal things we look for. The other thing is that this has some tape on it. That's not the greatest idea, an invention. There are better ways of doing things, but I'm sure this was an improvised installation to get this sub pump working. I understand it didn't work, and is obviously we have some issues because of it. I have another line that's going to the outside or coming from the outside into here. I quite don't understand what it is. It's not hooked to anything. I don't know if that had at one point in time was the area where things were being pumped to, but that would be below grade, and that could be perhaps maybe a drain from the outside to keep the water away from the wall, to pump it here, to pump it to the outside. We don't know. It's below grade, and obviously we can't see that. One of the things we can see is that we have, an improvised installation here with the electric and tape, and also we have it discharging into the sewer line. The township, people do not, it's not the proper way to do it. The proper way is to have it discharging to the outside world, to the exterior of the house. Now under these conditions, since we have a negative grade, going there right now is the better thing, but it would have to be corrected. Also, there's no check valve on that, so sewerage line can back up into here and discharge if there's a clog up or something like that, so you can get sewage backing up into here. Okay? Mm-hmm. As far as the appliance is concerned, we normally run them through the test, especially the washer and the dryer, just to make sure that the discharging works for the washer, which is going to this sink here that's trapped, that goes into the drain line. Obviously everything's disconnected right now. The dryer we did have the vent outside. The only thing we would recommend just removing this and putting a new metallized jacketing on to help prevent any maybe lint fires or things of that nature in the system. General comments are concerned, any outlet near water should be GFI'd. Again, that's not a big expense. We're talking $13 for a GFI outlet on these walls here, okay, since it is close to water and water discharge and sinks.